If there's one thing we've learned about business and life, it's that people are the X factor. They constantly surprise us, both in amazing ways and not so much. We're Ben and Syya, and welcome to the Gnaw on This Business Bytes podcast. This show is all about real life things we all deal with every day, how they relate to business, and how to make some sense out of our daily chaos. Welcome to the show. And welcome back to another episode of Gnaw on This Business Bytes. I'm Ben, and this is Syya. And here's something to think about. Conflict can be constructive if you let it. Let me say that again. Conflict can be constructive if you let it. I know the majority of people out there, everybody raise your hands in the audience. Let's get a hand raised. It says people hate conflict. People will walk away from conflict. I'm hearing about people today that leave jobs and go work for somebody else because they're afraid to ask for a raise. They're afraid to ask for a raise. They're afraid to ask for a title bump because they're afraid that somebody might say no to them. So instead of asking for it, they go find another job, somebody else. This is the world that we live in, the world of, people breaking up over text, people just ghosting each other because people are afraid and uncomfortable with conflict. But conflict, ladies and gentlemen, can be a good thing. Conflict lets us get better. Conflict lets us expand ideas, solve problems, get to the root of a problem. We need to think of conflict as not as the enemy, but something that is brought together where two various ideas or ideologies attack a problem from different sides of the table, but you're both looking at the problem, not at each other. This isn't an attack against the individual. This is an attack against the problem. And sitting there saying, how can we elevate this together? How can we make everything better? How can we take what you think and I think, find some symbiosis in there, and make something that's better than 1 + 1 = 2. So Syya, let's gnaw on this.
We talk about conflict a lot, my friend.
Yes.
And I'm a conflict avoider. I am such a conflict avoider. And no one will ever accuse me. I am aggressive, but I'm a conflict avoider, which I know people don't understand that. And they think, for people who don't know me, think that my assertiveness means I like conflict, that I like to get in people's faces and whatnot. That's not the case at all, right? But it's interesting that you say that because there are times you have to stand up for yourself, right? There are times you're just gonna have to set your boundaries. You don't have to be aggressive about it. You don't gotta be like low EQ, get in each other's faces and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding and having the wherewithal to know that, hey, I'm entering the world of impasse with another individual. There is something to be said about catching it while it's happening and being aware of it, right? Which usually means slow the F down, right? Second thing is look at yourself. Are you the cause? Are you contributing to this conflict? Because whatever it is that you're feeling conflicted about, are you contributing to it? Because let's be honest, it's so easy to blame others for things that maybe you might have had a hand in making, right? And at the same time on that is standing back, reframe, repurpose, relook, reswizzle, and be like, okay, as I'm in this situation, is this a learning lesson for me simultaneously? And every single step that I just mentioned is not easy.
No.
And every single step in that situation I just mentioned, Ben, is a lot of emotional maturity. We keep talking about EQ. When it comes to conflict, it's really, to me, based on all of our various conversations, this is a test of how really emotionally intelligent are you? And it's okay if the answer is, wow, you are still a 12-year-old, Syya, and you better frickin' right that ship. And that's okay. And at that point, then, what is it that's triggering you to get to that point? Like something else is going on in your life that you're not able to handle it. And that's also another bigger, not just EQ thing, but real self-analysis of like, trauma is real. For people who have gone through therapy, like and they've identified it and it worked for them, it's been a like a total life changer. For those that don't go through therapy, you know, try to figure out what it is. And I know it's not good as self therapy, whatever, but at least own the fact that there are things that trigger you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, if you don't want to get help for yourself, that's your own prerogative. But know that those triggers, it's because you won't work through them. Understand that your response to it could be the cause of a lot of that friction.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all have something to do with our own minutia. We
Yeah.
all do. We all, the muck that we mire through has something to do with our own. It's usually because it's something we've done or something we haven't done
Hmm.
or something we've acquiesced to letting somebody else do. And that's a challenge to just sit there and say, what is my emotional maturity? What is the hill I'm willing to die on? What is my values? What is my purpose? What is my vision? What are the things that I hold dear in my life? What are my ride and dies? You know, when I wrote my book, it's funny, I wrote this book originally for university students because university students are horrible communicators of their own vision. And I wrote a book called Powerful Personal Brands, a hands-on guide to understanding yours. And I wrote it because I was doing a lot of volunteer work at the universities, teaching people how to communicate, how to network, how to interview. And they had a very horrible sense of their own self. You know, and they were conflict avoiding. They were just saying, you know what, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to toot my own horn. I don't want to tell people how, you know, the things I've done because they may think it's weird. They may think it's bizarre that I'm actually into doing this.
Yeah.
And I went, you know what? We need to realize each one of us is unique. Each one of us has our own hopes, wants, fears, needs, and desires. Each one of us has our own biases and, you know, and weird parts. And that's okay. You know, we do. We
Yeah.
all have things within our personalities that other people go, okay, I either still like this person or I'm just going to back away slowly and just make sure that I keep eye contact as I back away. But we need to embrace that about ourselves and realize that it's important to be able to stand up for our own beliefs. Because if we don't stand up for our own beliefs, we become insular and we become stuck in our where we are, and we have no ability to evolve. We have no ability to be promoted or to be, you know, or to be seen as more than, because people want to hear what you have to say. They may not like it at times, but if you can articulate it and you can sit there and say, I believe this because, or I see this and this is why I think we should do this, and you can articulate it in such a way, that's conflictual. That is conflict because you're taking a point of view that you may know might not be the popular view, but it needs to be said. I mean, I'm a consultant. I get paid to tell people their babies are ugly. My job is to tell people and say, hey, listen, this is probably not going to work because of this, or have you thought of this, or what about looking at it this way? That's what I get paid for on a daily basis. And none of that endears me at times to C-suite because they think that they've thought through all the ideas and all that. But if they had, they wouldn't be paying me. And sometimes having a point of view that is completely off payroll, that, you know, doesn't have that political sense of, oh my God, I'm going to get fired if I say something, is a healthy thing for any leader to have somebody that can sit there and say, hey, listen, you know what? Maybe you need to look at things this way. Maybe you need to take three steps back and let's refocus on this because I think you're moving too quickly, and I think we're going to run into trouble if we keep going in that direction. That's all conflictual. That's all conflict. But that's conflict in a positive manner. Explain not only the what, but the why behind it
Hmm.
and how we can get beyond that. I can tell people that their baby's ugly, but it says, you know what? We could put a really cute sweater and hat on that baby, and you know what? It's going to look great in the photos. And it's a matter of going to the point of just not just being, belligerent for belligerent's sake, but saying, I'm taking a contrary point of view because I think this is the right thing to be done. And I think we're going to be able to help the organization or the person be better and find their better angels by doing so.
So gosh, I just love listening to you because you always like generate like memories like up in my head. And I just remember there's one opportunity I this is years ago, just heads up. If anyone's wondering, it's years ago. And I was helping out a reseller partner. So
Hmm.
for those that are not in the tech world, just imagine like a shop that does the services on behalf of like, HP, for example, right? So anyway, they had an event, a little party, if you want to call it, that they were doing. And even though I'm quote the vendor, I have a tendency to help behind the scenes. I just want to be helpful. I want their event to go well for them,
Hmm.
right? And it was so interesting because I'm helping them on the setup and we're kind of like, getting things together and just as things do, the stuff wasn't coming together well. AV wasn't working. Oh, well, the positioning of this or food didn't come on time. And now we're scrambling to find, you know, who's got like a bag of chips in their car, bring it out because we got no food for these people. I mean, it was that level of like stress, right?
Yeah.
And I remember one of the individuals like I had offered something which was, hey, knowing that we don't have something, do we want to just get like it just order delivery now? Like we've got 30 minutes. Like it's yeah, the first 30 minutes might not have food or whatever, but at least we know food's on the way. And I should have known better too on the timing on things, but I was trying to
Hmm.
be helpful and all that. Well, the person snapped at me. And I just looked at them and I knew they weren't mad at me. They were mad at the situation. And I
Yeah.
might have maybe asked a question that was kind of like a not now kind of vibe, right? Which I could
Hmm.
fully respect. But they totally snapped at me. And I just looked at them and I said, hey, you're mad at the situation. You're not mad at me, but you want to readjust that tone because other people are going to hear it. And it was so interesting. It snapped them out. And in the past, I would have not said anything. I would have just taken it and I would have been like, oh, they're mad. They're stressed with the situation. I would have just walked away and been like, ooh, you know what many people do. Like, I don't deal with that anymore, right? But I just said, hey, you, you got this, but you're mad at the situation. You're not mad at me. Watch the tone. I didn't say watch the tone, but I said, hey, people can hear us
Right.
and hear you talking to me this way.
Hmm.
And so it was really interesting because it snapped them right out of it. They did apologize, and then we all went into the thing. Um, but yeah, you just totally just reminded me of like how many times in business have we been snapped at in the high stress moment of the job, and then we take it and walk away. Well, what that does is it probably builds resentment over time of like
It
I'm being
does.
mistreated, right? Or it could also be if you are someone that does self-reflection, why didn't you stop it? Why did you allow yourself to be touched that way? So, I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many different facets on this. And I think, again, when conflict can be good, is recognizing the conflict will happen, but what do you do out of it? How do you react to it? What is your take from it? That I think is the win.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I think that it's important to sit there and say, when is the time to just back off and have that conversation with them after the fact that says, you know what? I realize you were stressed out, but you know what? We can't talk to each other like that because it puts us in a bad situation in front of the clients. And when is it, hey, wait a second, we need to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, this person, if left to their own devices, probably would have continued down that path. And you don't want them to look bad in front of their clients. And by saying something and by stepping up and by creating that level of conflict, you were able to sit there and create a residual or make the situation better and
I
be
think
able
it,
to sit
yeah.
there or at least change the conversation to a point where everybody was refocused and focused on the customer and say, all right, how do we move forward? Stuff has hit the fan.
Yeah.
It's hit the fan. There's nothing we can do about it. It's hit the fan. How do we move forward from here? How do
You,
we fix this?
you totally remind me of God, I'm such a visual. For those that know South Park, or anyone that ever watched Caesar Milan, it's like getting people out of the red zone.
Yes.
I just did the equivalent of like, calm down. But yeah, I think maybe that is a great skill too to learn is like, okay, usually when there is time of conflict, people are in that pink and red zone. How do you get
Yes.
out of it gracefully? And because it's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing people don't like to address in business is the fact that red zones happen. It will
Hmm.
happen. And it's not anything that like anyone intends to go into that frame of mind.
Yeah.
And of course, HR would love to say it never happens. Don't lie. Come on.
I
Who
think
you
we
lying
need to
to?
talk, and I think it's time to land this thing, but I think we need to talk about conflict with grace. And I think that's a great place to land this thing is that, you know, you need to think of the other person on the other side of the conflict from you as an individual and human being.
Yeah,
And we always need to be humanes acting humanely. We don't want to embarrass people. We won't want to put the person in a situation where they feel less than. You don't want to put people in a position where they feel that they've done something stupid. We all know if we've messed up, trust me, no one is a worse critic about something than yourself. 99% of the people have got that self-talk going at 100 miles an hour at 100 decibels in their minds when they've messed up. So
yeah.
you don't need to be piling onto that. But you also need to be in a situation where you can say, okay, how do we fix this? And it might mean, giving people a suggestion that is contrary to what they think they could do. But hey, listen, how do we put ourselves in a situation where we can take something that's bad, something that's not working, something that's ineffective, and be able to move forward with it and be able to turn lemons into lemonade. So
I,
let's leave it there. I'm Ben,
I'm Sia.
and we'll see you soon.
Hey, hey, hey. Thanks for listening to another episode of Not on This Business Bites. If you liked what you heard, we most humbly ask that you like, share, and hit that subscribe button. If you want to communicate more effectively within your organization, contact Ben at IamBenBaker.com or me at BrilliantBeanMedia.com. We can help you build your community, brand awareness, and personality through digital content and podcasting. We cannot wait to hear from you. See you next week for another episode of Not on This Business Bites.